Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brie. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. So today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which is ever so popular on booktube, and I wanted to be a part of that. Mostly because I did my yearly goals video back in December, and it is a perfect time to kind of check in and see where I'm at and what books I've been reading. To start, I would like to say that out of this entire year, up until this point that I'm making this video, I have read 29 books. My goal is always 52, and sometimes I will just meet that, sometimes I will surpass it. And right now, according to Goodreads, I am 5 books ahead of schedule. There's a lot of audiobooks and books that I am really ready to dig into, so I do think I can easily surpass 52 by the end of the year, but we'll see. But for now, let's just jump into all of the questions, shall we? So question number 1 is the best book I've read so far in 2020. And honestly, this was like the hardest thing to do because I've read lots of 5 stars, believe it or not. Literally out of the 29, I mean, there's a good chunk of ones that I've rated 5 stars, from, you know, rereading The Hunger Games and the Shannon McGuire's Middle Game book that I loved, Middle Creek by Angie Kim, Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis, The Court of Miracles, Incendiary, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have a lot because I've really liked the books that I've read so far. However, for the sake of this question, I'm going to go with just a simple, easy answer. And I'm going to choose The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I adored this book. I adored it as a audiobook, especially. The narrator was perfect and she brought the world to life. I absolutely loved the characters. I loved the setup. I loved like the location of it. I liked the city of like the Jinn. It was just so fascinating and gripping, and this was a really immersive fantasy novel. I do own the second one, and I believe the third one just came out or is coming out within the end of the month. I know it comes out June 2020, so it should be out hopefully by the time you see this video. But I absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm hoping the rest of the series is 5 out of 5 stars as well, but hopefully I will be getting to the sequel soon. Question number 2 is the best sequel I've read in 2020. So in 2020, I've read the entire Hunger Games trilogy again, so I'm not going to count those. And out of the rest of the books I've read, I think I've read 3 sequels. I've read The Night Country by Melissa Albert. I've read Rage by Cora Carmack. And I've read Come Tumbling Down by Shannon McGuire, which is the 5th book in the series. And I believe those are the only sequels I've actually read, if you don't count the Hunger Games prequel, because it's a prequel, not a sequel. So with that in mind, out of those 3, I'm going to choose Come Tumbling Down by Shannon McGuire. This is probably a no-brainer. I absolutely adored the series, and I really liked how the characters in this one, like, they all kind of came back and they had a purpose, and there was a lot more action in this one than some of the other ones in this series. It was perfect, and I loved it, and I was sad at times and happy at other times, and it was just wonderful. As always with these kind of series, I talk about this one a lot. So basically it's just children who are born on Earth and then find doors to these magical worlds, and then for whatever reason they end up coming back to Earth and they're trying to figure out their way back in society. And this one book in particular, which is number 5, the majority of this book takes place in a different world called the Moors. So it was very high-paced and action-packed and just very exciting, and that's why I would probably say it's the best sequel I've read so far. Question number 3 is a new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to get to, and that would be My Calamity Jane by the Lady Janeys, Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I have started this book, but I would say that I haven't gotten to it yet because I continuously put it off, and it came out on June 4th, so it's been quite a little while. I just have been having a hard time picking up actual physical books. I've been really immersed in audiobooks a lot more lately, and I don't know why, but I just haven't got to this one. So I do want to pick this one back up and get into it. I really like it. The couple chapters I've read so far, which is really not a lot. There might be 5 chapters, if that, I read. But I really like the series. I like the authors. I like the writing style. So I know I'm going to like it, and that's why I just need to get to it. And out of all the new releases that I've pre-ordered, I think this is the only one that I haven't read yet that I've pre-ordered. So that's why I definitely need to get to it. Question number 4 is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have to go with Lightbringer by Claire Legrand. I've been anticipating this book forever. I love the series. I think it's brilliant. I devoured the first 2, and I know that as soon as this comes out, I'm going to be immersed, and like I need it now in my hands. So without a doubt, that's my pick for the most anticipated. However, there's a lot of other ones, especially if you go back to my most anticipated reads of 2020 video. There are definitely other books that I'm excited for and I've pre-ordered, and I will definitely hopefully read when the time comes. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment of this year, and I probably have like 2 I could probably pick. One would be The Gambler by Dostoevsky. It just didn't do anything for me. I had read it like based on someone like asking me like, oh, like let's swap a book and like I'll read one of your favorites, you can read one of my favorites, and it was rough. I did not like it. And I don't know, but like the reason I want to put this one as my biggest disappointment though is just because I didn't know what to expect going into it. So for the real answer, I would probably say The Anti-Virginity Pact by Katie Wismer. I read this as an ARC, and there was a lot of things that I did like and a lot of potential in the book. It just, I felt like there was just too much packed into it, which then took away like the bigger points that I thought could have been made in this novel. So it is a debut. I don't want to be too hard on Katie. I know she's a fellow YouTuber and she works her butt off, so I'm not bashing her by any means. It just, I think I'm excited to see where the rest of her books are going to go, because I think she has a lot of potential and I'm sure I'm going to find one that I really like by her. Question number 6 is biggest surprise. And here's where I start talking about this book nonstop in this list. Because The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant was a definite huge surprise to me. The reason it was a surprise is because I went on NetGalley and looked at like the e-arcs that were available, and I saw this cover. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know who the author was. I didn't know if this was, I didn't know this was a retelling. And I was like, yeah, the cover looks beautiful. And I read it and I devoured it. I was obsessed with this book. I think it was so good. So it was a huge surprise because I was not expecting to one, like it so much, and 2, like not know anything about it and then like it so much. So it was great. It is a Les Mis retelling, following the character Eponine, or Nina as she is in this book, and it just kind of follows this entire court guild system, like underground guilds, where like they all have like these kind of nefarious purposes, and she is a thief and she gets herself into some trouble, and it's exciting and fun, and I loved it. So question number 7, I'm going to keep Kester Grant up on this because it's favorite new author, either a debut or new to you, and this is both. Kester Grant is a debut as well as new to me, and I was just blown away by this book and just how well it was crafted and put forth. So she's probably going to be a automatic pickup out there for mine. At least I hope so. As long as this rest of the series, for this first series that she has, is going to be as excellent as the first book she put out. So I'm really excited to read more from her, and we'll just see where this journey goes. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And out of all of them, I don't form a lot of like fictional crushes necessarily. Like there's definitely characters that I love. But with that being said, I think I'm going to have to go with Carmen from We Set the Dark on Fire. Carmen is the love interest of a female-female romance in this book, and I loved Carmen. I really liked how complex and a little bit different she is. Like she's definitely like, it's interesting because as I was talking to one of my friends about this book, she kind of said like the protagonist of this book, it's Danny, and Danny's not your typical YA character as a like protagonist. And with Carmen, like she's definitely has more of the qualities of like your stereotypical MC who's kind of strong and badass and a little bit complicated. And I think that's just why I liked her a lot. And eventually I will try to get to the second book of this because I know it's in her perspective and I think I am going to enjoy it much more. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry, and out of the 29 books that I've read, there was one book that I literally physically sobbed while reading it, and that was Heroine by Mindy McGinnis. I love Mindy McGinnis. She is my favorite author, and I love all of her books so far that I've read. This book was no exception, and I think this just hit a more personal level for me, given like the heroin addiction and just in general, the drug use and kind of falling away from yourself that would come with it, especially when you're only craving the next hit. So at one point in this book, and I won't spoil it, but basically she kind of comes to terms with what her drug use means and how it's going to impact her and everyone else. And at that point, I just literally put the book down and just cried for like 20 minutes. And I'm not lying. I was like literally ugly crying because it just hit me so hard. And that is it. At first, when I was reading these prompts, I was like, oh no book made me cry. And then I was like, oh, Heroine, you did actually. So it's a very emotional book and there's a lot of trigger warnings, but if you are okay with reading about drug use and a very real, accurate description of drug use, then I would highly suggest reading this book because I think it's very impactful and a powerful read. Question number 11 is a book that made me happy. And technically, like, all books make me happy, I guess. But I would definitely go with Roar/Rage from Cora Carmack. This series just makes me, it just gives me a lot of joy. And it's a really well-written fantasy, but also, like, it's a very romance plot-heavy book. And I love that, actually. Like, I just like how, even though these tropes aren't ones that I typically enjoy all the time, like, because they were so well done, I just really love this book. And even though there is action and there's some, like, kind of scenes that you're not sure what's going to happen, for the most part, like, I just really enjoyed reading this book and the sequel, Rage. I highly recommend either picking it up physically or the audiobook was also excellent. And both ways, it's pretty easy to consume what's happening in the story. So if you're interested, highly recommend. Question number 12 is my favorite book to film or TV adaptation that I've seen this year. And this is the easiest question to answer because there's been none. I'm not a big movie or TV person. And not to say that I won't binge a good show or, like, watch movies at all, but I just don't actively seek them out. And there's a very long list of books and movie adaptations that I want to get to and I haven't. I think, but this is why I'm not, like, necessarily saying it, I might have tried to watch Looking for Alaska. It was around Christmas time, so it might have been January. And if that's the case, I can say Looking for Alaska. But lo and behold, I still have to watch the last episode because that's how I am. I just don't finish things. There are definitely movie adaptations and TV shows I think that I want to get to. I do want to eventually watch the 13 Reasons Why show. I know it's just finished, so that would be a good time to binge something like that. I have seen the first season, I just never continued. I really want to see To All the Boys I Loved Before movie 2. I don't know if it's called P.S. I Love You or, yeah, I think that's what the second book was called. I want to watch that one because I loved the first movie. And Cursed, which is coming to Netflix. I'm probably going to end up watching that one as soon as it comes out because my husband's also a big, like, Arthurian lore nerd. He loves, like, Arthur and those kind of stories. And if you haven't known, Cursed is, like, a retelling where the sword and the stone, or, like, you know, Excalibur picks a queen instead of a king, and I'm here for it. So I'm gonna probably watch that one immediately. And then Little Fires Everywhere was another one that I wanted to watch. Haven't watched it yet. Like, I'm just terrible. Like, eventually I will watch them all. It just might take me 20 years, and that's all. So maybe I can say Looking for Alaska, because I might have watched some of that in January. So we'll just say that as my answer, but otherwise I haven't watched too many. Question number 13 is a favorite review I've written or made on booktube, and I don't really have one. I don't write. I used to try to really get detailed in my reviews on Goodreads, but to be honest, I just don't have the energy sometimes. So really, what I would probably say is my best review I've written has been The Court of Miracles, because I think, like, I hyped this up all over the place. Like, I know I did it in my wrap up, and I did hype it up on Goodreads, and I've talked to people about it. So, like, even though it's not, like, a concise review, I think, like, I was able to describe this book in so much detail because I loved it so much. So that's what I'm going to have to go with. Question number 14 is the most beautiful book I've bought or received this year, and that I'm going to pick Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. I have a lot of beautiful books that I've, like, picked up, but I didn't necessarily buy them this year. So I would probably say this one is one of my favorites. I don't know why. Like, I love, like, the fire, and I love this kind of, like, falling look, and it's just beautiful, and I'm obsessed with it. But I can also say there's definitely other ones that I've also kind of picked up. I could probably also say The Court of Miracles for this one, but I'm not going to because I use that so much. So I think just this is my favorite cover I've got so far. But I do know the rest of the year, there's definitely going to be ones that I'm going to love even more. And question number 15, the last question on this list, is what books do I need to read by the end of the year? And without me getting all, like, cliche and saying all of them, because isn't that everyone's answer, what I will do is, instead of going forward and saying all of the books I'm excited to read or I want to read, I'm going to direct you to 2 videos in the past. I'm going to go to the sequels I need to finish video that I posted a while ago, and the second one, which is my most anticipated 2020 read, because both of those are essentially my goals, the ones that I definitely want to finish by the end of the year. Like, I definitely wanted to finish reading all the sequels that I keep putting off, such as, like, the Ember and the Ashes series, because I did pre-order the 4th book, but I've only read book 1. I want to finish the Magician's trilogy. I want to read the sequel to Strange the Dreamer, and just a bunch of other ones that I keep putting off. Additionally, there's a bunch of books coming up that I'm really excited to read, such as, I already mentioned, Lightbringer. I'm ecstatic to read Wayward Witch by Zoraida Cordova, and just there's a lot. So there's a lot coming out at the end of the year that I have pre-ordered, and in general, there's other sequels and things that I've read this year, and I have a really long list of audiobooks to get to, so just go watch those videos and that'll give you a good summary. Alright everyone, so that is my mid-year freakout tag. So far I think I've been doing pretty good. I think there's a very, even though I know I said the best book I've read was City of Brass, which isn't wrong technically, but I think I've hyped up another book on this since I read it more recently, and I've been really crazy about it. So I think this year so far has been going great as far as reading goes, and I'm excited to see what the rest of the year takes and what all my videos are going to look like, because like I said, right now, out of the 29 books I've read, I probably have 10 5-stars, which is wild to me, but it happened. So anyway, guys, until next time, what I'm going to leave you off with is, what was your favorite book that you've read so far this year, and what book are you looking forward to reading by the end of the year? And until next time, I will see you then. Bye.